live. Okay, got it. Okay, so I'm going to share the live stream link on the chat, on the Zoom chat, for those who want to follow on YouTube. As well, it will be part of our video playlist where you can actually go back and rewatch it at your own pace. Okay, let's go back and rewatch it at your own pace. Hi, Hibatala. Okay, please, can you unmute and ask your question? Can you please unmute, Hiba? Hi.
I have a question.
Yes, please. Can you please speak up?
Yeah, I couldn't find the live session streamings on the other one, like the Friday one on YouTube.
Oh,
I couldn't find it.
okay. So I believe it's Blessing here. Blessing had that issue resolved. Okay, Blessing.
Hi,
Okay,
Coach.
so all right. So Blessing, can you please share the live stream link with everybody on Discord so that they can actually catch up from last week's session?
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Hiba, you would get it on Discord, okay?
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Samira, for a moment, I thought Hiba was Samira. If we haven't attended the Friday, wouldn't it confuse us to attend this class? Well, not necessarily, Samira. You just have to be here. You just have to ask questions. You just have to follow, okay? You won't be confused, okay? All right. Guys, it's almost the end of the year. Well, it is literally the end of the year because we are in the last month. So we are going to have a fantastic day today, and at the end of the day, I'll have some very good news to share with you guys. I think some of you already know that good news, but at the end of the session, I'm going to share that good news with all of us. Okay, great. So back to our sessions, right? Last week, we actually did look at a couple of concepts in Python. And those concepts were basically designed to add up onto the knowledge that you've already acquired in Python. That is to say, to add on the finer details to how you write your functions, how you pass arguments to functions, how you accept arguments in your functions. Okay, so yeah. So from last week's session, we looked at all those amazing stuff and how to even make life much easier for yourself, right? If you've forgotten, I think I can bring that back here, okay? Then we also looked at JSON, what JSON is, how it actually applies to us as programmers, how we can actually convert Python data types to JSON, that is by encoding it, and how we can actually convert JSON to a Python object where we can actually access and make good use of it in our program. We also looked at package manager, which is pip for Python, and looked at how we can actually, first of all, install pip on our machine, use pip to install packages, Python packages that would actually be used in our projects, how we can see the project that has been installed, how we can uninstall packages, okay? So I think it was an amazing fine-tune to the skills that we have to let you know and appreciate the fact that you don't always have to write everything by yourself. You don't have to design the classes by yourself every time. Yes, you can write your own classes that performs particular actions or events for you, but half the time, you are going to require a package or a module that has already been predefined and built by someone else for you, and how you can use that. I think a great approach was we looked at beautiful dates. We also looked at JSON and how we can actually use JSON in our projects, okay? So for today, we are going to maybe touch a bit on pip, but we are going to focus mainly on hypertext transfer protocol, what it is and how we can actually make good use of it in our program, okay? We might not jump into exception handling and unit testing. We'll move this to our next session because I want us to take our time to actually appreciate the concept of hypertext transfer protocol. Any question up until this point? Any question up until this point, guys? Hi, Northcote. Hi, North. Hello, North. Are you here? Blessing, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. So I guess North is not here. All right. So without wasting much time, I am going to switch away from this screen. We are going to use the browser itself, as well as I am going to bring up my notepad. Okay, we'll have a couple of things here, but we just need to do this. Okay, just to explore the nitty-gritties of what HTTP is. Okay, but even before that, we need to take a closer look at pip. So I am going to open my terminal. Okay, which is this command prompt here. I am going to type pip here. Give it a second. I'm going to get this feedback. Okay. Now, when you have pip installed on your PC, as soon as you type the command, pip itself, the name pip, okay, as the software. When you type pip on your command line or your terminal, okay, you should get this output. That confirms that you have properly installed pip on your operating system, okay? Now you can run all these commands here, okay? So we'll take a look at pip list here to see a list of all the packages that we have installed here, okay? There are a couple of ones that you can look at in here, okay? So just take your time and actually go through them, explore them, and see how you can use them. But from time to time, we're actually going to use pip to install a couple of things that we will need in our program. Guys, do you understand what pip is and how relevant it is in Python programming? Hi, Priscilla.
Hi, Cole.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay.
Amazing. So, Priscilla, based on what I just said, do you understand what pip is and how relevant it is to us in Python?
No, I wanted to take my time later and I didn't want to take you back.
So you see that the whole issue of I want to take my time is what will bring you back in the program, okay? That is why I'm here. From last week's feedback, that survey feedback that we received from you, there were a couple of mixed feelings in there, okay? Some people were saying they did not get good support from the mentors. Some people were saying that they did not even access the mentor support at all. You see, but it is not a good thing to do. Why? Because every now and then I am on this call purposefully to actually answer your questions. You don't take us back when you ask a question. Maybe when I feel like that the question you're asking is taking us way back, I would give you an overview and then I'll point you to which session you can actually go and watch to bring you up to speed. Okay, so let's say the explanation I give to you on the call is not okay or you still don't understand, right? We still have stuck on a concept or stuck on a project session, okay, where you can literally book a session with Blessing Malik, or if you want myself, you can even book a session with me, okay? And then we'll take our time to take you through whatever concept that you are having the challenge with, okay?
Okay.
If that doesn't work for you, we still have our one-on-one sessions. All these things have been designed and put in place to help you understand and make good use of, the program. So if you always say that, oh, I want to take my time and then go over it, yes, that is okay, that is fine. But then why are you on this session? It means you are not going to make the most out of this session. So please, if you have a question, please ask. Okay, ask so that I actually take my time to explain it to you. That is the reason why I'm here. Okay, you are the reason why I'm here, nothing else. Okay, so once again, Priscilla, Do you
Yes.
understand what pip is and how relevant it is to us as Python programmers?
No, please.
Okay, great. So from last week, you were in last week's session, right?
Yeah, I was lost immediately. You switch from the editor to the command, the
Okay.
terminal. Yeah.
Okay, good. And I believe that there are other people on this call who also share in the same sentiment, right? So let's just take our time and to appreciate it. Okay. Now, as a software engineer or as a software developer, okay, you have a couple of roles that you would play. Now, if we want to look at the length and breadth of being a software engineer, okay, we might not end the session right now. But it only means that you can design software that can run on different environments, okay, if you're a software engineer. What does that mean? It means that you can build applications that would run on mobile, on the web, on desktop, and so on. But how then do you build the application? You need the help of tools. And we all are already familiar with the existing tools that we use, with one being the normal text editor that we use, which is our VS Code, okay? We are conversant with it to an extent. We are able to create some files. From our feedback that we got, some of your colleagues were saying they don't know how to create files. But every now and then, I'm showing you how to create a file. Okay, whenever I'm doing a practical, I show you this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm creating the file. So you do know how to create a file, right? Now, your editor gives you the capability to be able to actually create your project folder and create files in there. That is okay. But as well, you don't just interact with your editor. So I'm going to bring up my editor window here. Okay. And in this, my editor window, which we've already gone through it entirely, right? It allows us to be able to create folders, open folders, clone repositories, and the like. But not just that, we also have access to this terminal here. How am I getting it? If you can't see the full view of your navigation items at the top, there's these three icons or these three dots that you can actually click on, go to terminal and click on new terminal. This will literally spin up this black screen for you. Now, this black screen allows you to type in commands that will force your computer to execute and do something for you. For example, there are some commands that I have not taught you, so you don't necessarily have to do it in here, okay? But pip, we use pip on our terminal, which is this black screen. So when you open this black screen, without even knowing much about it, all you need to know is that the Python has a software called PIP, okay? So when you go on this black screen or this terminal and you type PIP, it is literally going to give you this output. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to confirm if you can see this output. Okay, if that is true for this case, Priscilla, did you get this output?
On my, you mean
on your local PC?
Yeah, the last time when I did I got it. But
Good. So now let's say we don't know anything about it, right? So we want to play around with it and see what it is. Okay, so then I spoke about packages, right? Python packages. You remember? I even took you to this page, PyPI. Okay, I took you to this page where I told you that there are packages that you can use, okay? And these packages, what are they? They are basically Python scripts that have been written by other developers like yourself that you can actually make use of it in your code, okay? You can actually make use of it in your code. For example, you can search for any package that you want. And for now, we're going to just search for JSON, okay? If I search for JSON, this is going to give me a couple of results. These packages are Python scripts written by other developers like yourself that you can use in your code. But the question now is, how then do I get this particular code, this particular Python script written by someone? I think it's here, oh, okay. All right, written by that person that designed this code. How can I get this code into mine? I told you that you use the pip package manager to actually install and manage packages. So for example, if I come to this code here, my test editor, okay, and then I'm going to close this. I click on these three icons here, go to terminal, and I go to new terminal. It's going to spin up this black screen for me. If you're using a white background, you get it still as a white background, right? So I type pip, enter, I get this feedback. Then what I said was, the commands here have literally been designed to help you make use of what? Actually installing and uninstalling packages in your program. Okay, so then how then do I make use of the install? That is the first thing I showed you. I said you look for the package name. In this case, it's JSON2 and 2JSON. I'm going to clear. So just type the command, Priscilla. Type pip install and then the name of the package that you found. If you press enter, this is literally going to take some time to download and install this package in your program or on your Python environment where you can use this in your program. Okay, now I'm saying that you can install it, but ideally, if you install a program on your PC, you can see an icon like something like this that is up here. Okay, like the Microsoft Edge, like the Chrome and the like, right? But in this case, I'm saying that you've installed something, but you can't see it. You can't actually see it. So how then do we confirm if we've actually installed something? Okay, so back again on the black screen, don't worry about where you are or what you're doing, okay? Just type the command that I just typed. Then now use pip, the same pip command, we're coupled with the actual command that you want. So the software is pip, but the command is what goes after it. So pip list. If I do this, it's going to give me a list of all the packages that I have installed on my PC, amongst which you would see JSON2JSON. Priscilla, does that make sense?
Yes, please. I see.
So essentially what I'm doing is I want to use this package written by Obed or Blessing or Adrian or Bauer, okay? So if I can find that package on this repository, this Python repository, I can leverage on the pip command to actually install it in my Python runtime environment or even use it in my program. Okay, now I have now been able to install. I can now see or identify the package that I installed, right? What if I don't need this package and I want to uninstall it? The same pip software can be used to uninstall by just saying pip uninstall and then the name of the package. If you run this command, it is literally going to remove that particular software. It's asking me, I say yes, and it successfully uninstalled this. How do I confirm that this has been uninstalled, right? Let's clear, and I'm going to type pip list, okay, like this. Now, this time, you realize that under the J, you don't see the JSON2 to JSON, right? So basically, pip is a package manager, and a package is basically a Python module that has been designed by other developers like yourself that you can actually employ and use in your code. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Great. So now that we are on the same page in terms of pip, let's not waste much time. Let's move to HTTP. Unless someone else, okay, please ask your question.
Yeah. So how do I know what is in the package?
So for example, we are going to see that in a second, okay?
Okay.
We are going to install some package and we are going to see how what is in the package, okay? But ideally, okay, if I come here, right? Today we are going to use a package called request, okay? Request, like this. If you search for request, you will see this particular package here. Okay, now, based on your question, how do I know what is in the package? And how do I know how to use it? Ideally, a good package that has been written by a good Python developer would have a documentation. So in the documentation, you actually would know how to use that particular package. For example, if I search for request, I see this package, and this is how I can install it. I already know how I can identify if it has been installed or not. And I also know how I can uninstall it from my program, right? But then again, how then do I use it? The documentation here tells me how I'm going to use it. So it tells me I can import request and then do this to actually use it. But we're going to look at this into more details like in a few minutes or so. Okay. But then again, you remember we have the dir function in Python, right? That you remember, do you remember that? So let me just create actually let me go here. Priscilla, do you remember the dir? If you don't remember, I'm going, don't worry, if you don't remember, I'm going to show you right now. Python network. Okay. I'm going to drag this and drop it in my editor. Okay. And then down here, I am going to just type dir.py. Okay. I'm going to import any package, package like JSON as we discussed the last time. And then here, I'm going to use dir, right? I'm going to say print, and I'm going to use dir function, and I'm going to say JSON. This would literally show me all that is in this package. Okay. So if I try running the scripts here, you can see the response that I get here, right?
Yeah.
So this is what you've already done in the past. You've actually used the dir method in some of your past projects. So for every package that you literally import into your program, you have command over it. So let's take a practical look at it. So let's do pip install JSON to JSON like this, okay? Now, I want to know what is in this JSON to JSON. So I've now installed JSON to JSON. I'm going to clear my screen. I'm going to do pip list to confirm if it has been installed, right? And up here, I can see that it has been installed here. Okay. So how then do I use it? Okay. So if I come in my code here, can I type import JSON to JSON like this?
Yeah.
Okay. And then can I use that in here? Let's try. Now, you see, it tells me no module name JSON to JSON. So I'll come back to this, the Py, okay? Then I will try to find the home page of this JSON to JSON. But you can see it's not a very good package because there's no real documentation on it. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Because if I can't get any documentation on your package, how can I use your package? That doesn't make sense?
Yeah.
So let's use a different package, okay? And we are not using random packages, guys. We are picking package. We are exploring what packages are, okay? So let's see. I think beautiful dates. Where's beautiful dates? Let's see. Beautiful dates like this, okay? Now let's pick beautiful dates here. Then now you see in beautiful date, it's actually showing me how I can use it. Do you see that? So in here, I can actually tell that this is a good package. Well, to an extent, okay, because it has a documentation. So I'll come here. I'm going to uninstall. First of all, I'm going to do pip uninstall JSON to JSON, okay? Okay, yes. And now it's uninstalled. Okay, I don't need to do a list because I know it's uninstalled. I'll come here, I'll come and copy the name of this package, and I'll come to my code and type pip install beautiful date. Okay, enter, give it a second to actually download. Okay, it does all these things and it tells me it's downloaded. Okay, Priscilla, so let's confirm pip list. Let's go through our code. We see beautiful date has been installed here. So let's try importing it. But how do I know? I know I can import it using this, something like this, right? So from beautiful date, import star. We already know how we can use modules in our code. This is just one option. So I can literally do import beautiful date. I guess, does it have an underscore? Yeah, that's an underscore. Underscore dates here. Okay. Now let's try and then see what is in beautiful date here. Okay. Now, sometimes when you install, the platform might not see it immediately. Okay. So let's try running the script again. Sorry. clear here. And I'm going to do Python. Yeah. Okay, so now you see here, installing Beautiful Date is telling me that this is what you get in Beautiful Date. Do you see that? So I can get years, I can get yesterday, I can get year, I can get weeks, I can get second. First, does it make sense?
Yes.
So DIR is like you having a microscope in the lab where you can actually examine the content of a package or a module. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Now, this would only give you an abstract layer of what you have inside this module. Does it make sense? But then how do I know how to use what is in this? Once again, you go to the documentation. Do you see that? You go to the documentation. And in the documentation, you can actually follow the instructions to see how you can use the things in this particular package. Does it make sense?
Yes.
It's not intuitive. We don't expect you to know everything that is in this package because you are not the one that designed it. So you need to be able to read the documentation that comes with that package to understand what it does and how you can actually use it in your code. Is that okay?
Yes, please.
Great. So now that we have that, so you see, we can do this here. We can actually use Beautiful Date like this, okay? And then pour some methods on them like d.today, .now, .tomorrow, and all these things, okay? We can do all these things, but the only way you can master it is by you actually practicing. Is that okay?
Yes.
Amazing. So with that being said, we are going to move on. I don't actually need Beautiful Date, so I'm going to uninstall.
Thank you. Cool.
You're welcome. I'm going to uninstall Beautiful Dates. So let's come here. Let me just grab the name here. And then I'm going to go back. And we're going to uninstall. Yes. Okay. And then now it's done uninstalling. So now let's go to HTTP. What is HTTP? So this is the full name, right? It's actually a recursive, has a recursive meaning. So what is HTTP? Okay. And why do we even need HTTP? Okay. So the first thing you need to know is the full name of HTTP is Hypertext Markup. Sorry, that is the other transfer protocol. Okay. Now, it is a transfer protocol. Essentially, it is a protocol that has been designed to enable and allow communication over the internet. Okay. So what does it mean? So we're going to minimize our editor for a second. And we're going to use, actually, let's use this Python page, okay? So I'm going to make it a bit bigger here. Okay. Now, in your browser, ideally, if you want to access a particular web resource, you utilize the browser or you use the browser to actually make a request or a request to the server on which that resource or web resource resides or exists, okay? So if I want to, let's say, open, let's take one website. Give me any random website. Someone give me any random website. Hi, Philip.
Hi.
Okay. All right. I thought you were going to give me a random website. So, let's do intranets.alx.se.com, right? So this one I'm logged in, so I have to log out. So let me just log out here. Okay. Now, whenever you go to any website and then you do intranet.alxswe.com or any other website, what you are doing is you are initiating what we call the request, okay? The request. And this request is literally sent to a web server, okay, that exists somewhere on the internet, okay? Now, okay, so Victor said Fiverr, okay, so let's use Fiverr. Okay, so let's do Fiverr. Okay, let's use their web. Okay. Okay, so we have this website here. Okay, beautiful website. Okay. But the question is, how are we getting these details, these aesthetics and all these contents, right? Once again, whenever you type fiverr.com in your address tab or address bar in the web browser, you send what is called a request, okay? So now that request is enabled or is made possible via the HTTP protocol. So you realize that if you copy this, if you copy this HTTP web address here and paste it here, you see it has the HTTP as the protocol that it uses, okay? This hypertext transfer protocol makes it possible for you to be able to actually make a request to that web server, okay? So you make what is called a request to the web server, then the web server will send you back what we call a response, okay? A response. But are these abstract concepts? Not entirely. Now, in your browser, if you right-click on any part of the page, you should get this context menu, click on Inspect. You should get this page, right, inside your browser. Now, it might be configured differently based on what browser you're using, but if you're using Chrome like myself, you should get your view like this, okay? Now, under these view tabs, you should see a tab here called Network, okay? This network actually allows you to examine all the requests that exits your browser to a web server. So I'm going to clear out all these requests that are going out, okay? And I'm going to make another request to Fiverr again. So you can see all those requests being loaded down here in my browser, right? Now, if I click on the very first one, okay, on this very first one, you can see that in this tab, there is the name that tells you the request that is being made, okay? The status that tells you what is the state of the request that you have made. Okay, was it successful or did it fail? Then the type of request that is being made, this type, we want a document. There's the initiator, there's the size of the document, there's the time, and there's something called waterfall. This is something that we'll examine or look at later on in the future, okay? But now, for each and every request that you see in this view, you can actually examine it. If you look at it, you would even see the JavaScript being loaded, right? You see pictures being loaded. If I click on this, you should see a picture that is being loaded. So you see that picture that is loaded up here. You can see where it's coming from, right? If I click on this, you can see this lady up here. You see where it's coming from. Good. Now, let's take our time. If I click on the very first request, it is going to give me this view, which has a couple of things that we need to pay closer attention to. So there's the headers, there's the preview, there's the response, there's the initiator, there's the timing, and then there's the cookies. Okay, now the header here is very important. Why? Because it gives us some metadata about the request that we are making, as well as it also tells us metadata about the response that we even received. So when you make a request to a particular web server, this is how it looks like. So your request will contain the request URL, okay, URL. It will contain the request method, okay, and some other things like the data, the request payload, okay, we call this a payload, and extra data, okay. Now, when the server is responding back to you, okay, the server will respond with also some headers. So all these things are what we call the headers, okay, and the headers, as I said, is just a metadata about the request that you are making, okay, about the request that you are making. Any question up until this point? Any questions on the request and then the headers? Hello? Hi, Kenneth. Hi, Kenneth.
Hi, Ko. Hi, Ko.
Do you understand what I just spoke about in terms of the request?
Yes, the protocol. Yes, I do.
Okay, you understand the protocol, but do you understand the component of the protocol that we call the request? Do you understand what I mean by when you make a request?
Yes, you make a request. I don't think so. I don't think I understood that. I think
Okay.
I was out for a comment.
Okay, no worries. Hi, Adrian.
Very good.
Hi, Adrian. Do you understand what we mean when we say we are making a request?
I think that we're requesting data from the specified URL that has been given, and then it checks a particular method.
Good. So we are requesting for some resource, right? So that data is what I'm calling the resource. It could be a web page, it could be a picture, it could be a video, it could be a PDF, it could be an Excel, it could be an HTML document, and so on, right? Hi, Emmanuel. Hi, Emmanuel. Okay, Fred. Fred, are you here?
Yes, I'm here. I'm here.
All right. So, Fred, do you understand what the request URL is?
Yes, I understand what the request URL is.
Okay. So, can you explain to us on the call what the request URL is and why we need it?
The request URL is what the browser uses to identify the particular website.
Great. Thank you. So, it's like the path that actually points us to the resource that we have on the web, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. So, do you understand? Do you have any question? Hi, Marianne. Hi, Mary.
Yes, hi, cool.
Yeah. Mary, do you understand what I just said?
Yes, I understand so far.
Good. So if you don't understand it, then you will not understand what we're going to do with Python in a second, okay? Good. So guys, request, right? So whenever you come to your web browser and then you do www.google.com, okay, google.com, what you're actually doing is you are sending a request, or you are making a request to Google's web server, okay? This is the URL, the Google request URL, the request URL, okay? The method here will be a get, and we're going to look at it soon. The payload here can be none, okay? So this is what the request is. The headers, we're going to look at the headers breakdown in a second. Now, what I am trying to teach you here is I'm trying to actually teach you how you can identify the content or the components of the request. Okay, so when you make a request, you're making the request through the help of the request URL, the method, and even a payload. But then again, the request will contain some headers. That header is data about the request that you are making. So I said in your browser, okay, when you right click and you go to inspect, and then under the network tab, you should be able to examine each and every request that you made. Okay, and then you see that under headers. Okay, so in here, this is what we call the request headers. So you can see here the authority, you can see the method, you can see the path, you can see the scheme. The scheme is the same as the protocol. You can see the accept, you can see the accept encoding, you can see the accept language, the cache control, the cookie, okay, and so many other information. Okay, this is going to tell the web server where is the request coming from, how should I handle the request, what kind of data should I send back to the person. Do I need to include, like, do I need any prior knowledge about the request in order for me to do something, okay, on the web server in terms of the cookies, okay? Which browser is the person even using? Do you understand? What type of platform is the person using? Is the request coming from a Windows platform, a Mac, or Linux, or whatever? Okay. So the request headers basically gives you additional information about the request that you're making. Okay. But that is only done, or that is only made possible by what? Having the request URL, the request method, and the request payload. So now let's talk a bit about the request method. Okay, the request method is what we call the HTTP verbs. Okay, now whenever you are making a request, over the network or on the internet, you want specific things that you want to do. So these HTTP verbs are what we call the method or the request method, okay? You either want to get, you want to send something, post something to the server, you want to update, okay, put or patch, okay? You want to update, you want to even get the head, okay? You want to even delete something from the web server. What does it mean? What it means is that these verbs actually tell the server the request that it is receiving, what should it do with it? If it sees a get or a head request, okay, it knows what it's going to do with it. If it sees a post request, that means you want to submit some data to the server, possibly for it to do some kind of processing or even do some kind of storage. Maybe you have some data on the server or on your database server, and you want to literally what? Update it, okay? You can use the put or patch method or verb. Or maybe you want to delete a resource, okay? Delete a resource on the web server. You can use the delete method. So this method here would differ based on what you want that request to do. The second part of it, which is the payload, is basically the data that you want to send to the server. And this is usually in the form of a JSON, okay? Not always, but it is usually in the form of a JSON, okay? So you would have like your JSON text that contains some key value pairs, okay? Like this. That will be your payload. Any question up until this point? Any confusion up until this point?
Kindly go over the payload aspect again, please.
Okay. So let me take an example. Maybe you have a web resource, okay, that you want users to be able to sign up, okay? So the data that you're collecting from your users are their first name, okay, first name, last name, and let's say age, okay? So this is what you want to send. So let's take this, like the first name being Obed, okay, like this. The last name being Horne, okay, like this. And the age, let's say the age is, let's say Obed is 9,000 years because Obed is Methuselah, okay. Now, this is actually the payload. This is what you are sending to the server to actually store as your website user, okay? Now, this is just one example. It could be that you want the person to log in, or you want to actually do a checkout, or you want to actually add a record. That data that you send to the server is the payload. And that data takes the form of a JSON, which is your key value pair, okay? Your key value pair. So this is the payload that you want to send to the server. Okay, and we're going to see that in a second. Okay, in a second. Does that make sense, Kenneth? Hi, Kenneth.
Yes, it does.
Oh, wait, who asked the question? I forgot to ask the question.
Me,
Hi, Fred. Hi, Fred. Does it make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Hi, Priscilla.
Hi, cool. So it means that when someone visits the website and does not do anything, log in or put any information, the payload doesn't work.
That is why I said the payload is none. It can be none.
Okay.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So you only send a payload when you actually want to make a post or a put or a patch.
Okay.
Does it make sense? The post here means you want to store something on your server. The put or patch here means you have something on your server that you want to make an update to. For example, I have Obed on my server. I realized I made a mistake and the name should be Obeds. Okay, so if I'm making this request through my request URL, I have to tell the server that I'm not making a get request, neither am I making a post request, but I'm making a put request. Do you understand? So now the server will know that, okay, I need to actually find the record Obed and then update it to Obeds.
Okay.
Do you understand? So the
Yeah.
payload, you only send the payload when you need to send something to the server. The GET request only fetches resources from the server. For example, this, what we can see here from Fiverr, okay, you can see that the method here is GET. So all that is doing is we are requesting for the HTML pages, web pages for Fiverr. So it is only fetching the resources from the server. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Great. Any other person? Okay, good. So now that we've actually appreciated what the request is, let's go on and see what the response also is. Just as the request is, right? With the request, you are making a request to the server. The server receives your request, does some processes, and gives you a response. Does that make sense? It gives you a response. So by that response, what is happening? What is the server giving back to you? And how does the server know what to actually send back to you? The server knows what to send back to you, one, by the person who designed the application that is running on the server. So the person can tell you that whoever designed the application that is running on the server can say that when you make a GET request to my server, please return a JSON response, okay? A JSON response, or return a plain text, okay? Plain text like this, okay? Or even return an application JSON. Do you see that? Or maybe return an HTML, I think so, HTML, or maybe an XHTML, or even a picture, right? An image, so like a JPEG, okay? And so on. So it is whoever that has designed that application that is running on the server for which we are making the request to, who will specify the type of response that we get. And as a developer, based on the response that you do your processing, based on the type of response that you get. For example, if you are receiving an image as your response, then you need to render it for the user to see the image. Am I making sense, Priscilla? Priscilla?
Yes.
Is it making sense?
I got lost at the image part.
Okay. All right. So the response here, right? I said we have looked at request and now we're looking at response. What is response? Response is what you receive back from the web server. Does it make sense? Now, whatever you are receiving back from the web server is a response. But who specifies what you are what the response is? Because at least we know that when we are making the request, we are making the request and we know the type of request that we want, right? But when we are getting the response, who is actually specifying the response? So I said the response is specified by whoever designed the application that is running on the web server. Okay, so now that response could be in the form of a JSON. Now we all know what JSON is, right? It could be a plain text, it could be an application JSON, it could be an HTML, it could be an XHTML, it could be a picture like JPEG, PNG, WebP, and so on. Now, as a developer, based on the response that you receive from the server, you perform your processing based on the response that you receive from the web server. Does it make sense? So if you are receiving a response as a plain text, then you need to process it as a plain text. Does it make sense? Don't worry, you see it in a second.
So,
if you're receiving, okay.
Okay. So you said you develop your response based on what you receive from the server. Is that what you said?
You perform your processing based on the type of response that is coming from the server.
Okay.
Does it make sense? And we're going to see that in a second.
So you demonstrate.
Okay, so we'll see that in a second, okay? But you need to understand this first. Okay. So then how then do we see the response that is coming from the server, okay? The response as well comes with some headers, okay? And these headers actually is data about the response that you're receiving so that you would also be able to process your response carefully, okay? So in the same way that we're able to see the request headers, we can also see the response headers, okay? There are a couple of things that you see here, and these are also key valued pairs, by the way, okay? So for example, we can see the date in which that response was sent, okay? We can see the content type, Priscilla. Hi, Priscilla. So we can see that, So the response that is coming from this Fiverr website, okay, this Fiverr web server, the content type is a test HTML. Do you see that?
Yes.
So which means how then would we process an HTML for our user to see? We need to use a browser, okay? So that the user would see the rendering of the HTML. Does it make sense? We
Yes.
also have common things like, I want to use things that you would make sense to you, like the server. What type of server is Fiverr using? They are using Cloudflare. Do you see that? So the response even tells us the type of server that is we are receiving the response from. Okay. There are other things here, including cookies and then and things that we can discuss later. But these are some of the data that you actually receive about the response. Okay. Now that the response is back, in your same window, you can actually look at the preview. So in the preview here, right, it is actually going to render based on the response that it received. That is your browser. Okay, and in this case, it is rendering an HTML because we know our response, the content type is a test HTML. Do you see that? So it's going to return that for us. Now, if we go under the response, we see the actual HTML code that is coming from the Fiverr server. And what server is Fiverr using? We know they're using Cloudflare. Okay, so this is the actual HTML code coming from that server. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Good. Any questions or any confusions up until this point? Before we dive into it. Okay, so if we understand that, then let's turn off our this part of our browser. Okay, and I'm going to bring in one browser from this side. Hold on. Okay. So this is another browser here. Okay. Now, in preparation for this session, I was actually looking for an easy request URL that we can work with. That is normally called an API. Okay, an API. Now, an API is what we call the application programming interface. Okay. Now, it has multiple meanings, or it has different meanings depending on the context in which you're using it. But in this context, it means that someone has designed an application that resides on a particular server somewhere, okay? And on that server, we can make some requests to it and then get some responses from it. So in here, we are going to build a simple application by exploring the request module or package, the request package or module in Python, okay, and how we can actually use Python to make requests to servers. Okay, we'll start up by first of all exploring the request URL of https://fiverr.com. We know the request method was a get, okay. Method was a get, okay. We are going to look at that in a second. Then the second one that we'll look at is how can we build a simple text translator, okay, using Python, okay, and then leveraging on APIs. So text translation, okay, or translator. Actually, this is something you can explore and build into your apps and then make some money from it, okay. It's actually a cool thing to build. Okay, so we're going to see how we're going to leverage on the request package or module in Python, how we can use it to actually make requests to a server, analyze the request, and so on. Does that make sense? We start with that, and then we come to this particular URL. Okay, I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put that in here. Okay, so I'm going to put request URL here. Okay, guys, once again, if you have any confusion, kindly please stop me and then ask so that I can explain it to you. Is that okay? Stop me, ask so that I can explain it to you. All right, great. Any confusion up until this point, guys? Hi, Victor.
Hi, cool.
Hi.
Yeah, please, you talked about the request packages. Are there only 2 request packages in Python? Because earlier you talked about URL, methods, and payload, but now
Yeah.
you're calling only 2, which is URL and method.
Yeah,
So
that,
what
that is, you remember I said that the payload can be none. So it's not always the case that you send a payload. Does it make
got
sense?
it where you have to send it like during the sign up and stuff and
Yeah,
sign
so
in.
I'll show you that practically using the text translator app that we're going to build.
Okay.
Is that okay? Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the request is just a package name, okay? Everything that I have explained here applies in the request package. So first of all, where do we get the request package? Okay, I'm going to google.com and I'm going to type PYPI, okay? Then I'm going to open the first link here. I'm going to search for requests, guys, request, okay? Request. Now, I'm going to use the very first one, which is request, okay? I'll click on next. And then in here, this is the request package, okay? Now, based on the explanation that I gave, you would realize that this will begin to make sense, okay? This will begin to make sense. So what is the get? You know that it is an HTTP method, okay? We'll look at what status code is in a second and so on, the encoding and all these things, okay? Great. So in here, I am going to open up my Python project here. I'm going to create a file here and I'm going to call this network, okay, underscore get.py, okay? So I have created a Python file that is actually, I'm going to use to write my Python scripts. So in here, first thing I want to do is I want to install the request package, okay? I'll do pip install request. Remember, it's requests with an S. If I press on enter, this is going to literally install request on my Python runtime environment for me, okay? I can confirm if it has been installed by running pip list to actually see that request has been installed here for me. Do you understand? Now that my request has been installed, what can I do? I can begin to play around with it. I want to make, I want to make a request to the Fiverr server, okay? So what do I need? I need a request URL, which we know is https fiverr.com. Then I need a request method like this, which I know will be a get, okay? These are what I need in my application. So let's put this at the top. Let's come down here. So first thing I'm going to do is I am going to bring into my Python script the package or module that I installed, which is my request. So import request like this. Okay. Now that I have request brought into my script, I can begin to use it. But I need to prepare a couple of things. First of all, I need to create my URL and say this my URL will be https://fiverr.com. Okay. Then I need to also set my method, but I don't really need my method here. Okay. So now I am going to make a request using the request package. Okay. Now this here is just an object. I can examine it by using the print dir requests like this. Okay. If I run the script, it's going to give me this error. No worries. I can just do Python network gets.py. Okay. If I run this, you can see this is the content of the request package, right? And in here, you can see post, you can see put, you can as well see get. Where's my get? Okay, you can see get, you can see head, you can see hooks, you can see sessions, you can see requests, you can see so many things, right? You can see status codes and so on, right? So if I do, I can make a request, and this is how I'm going to go about it, guys. Pay attention. So I do request, okay, dot, because it's an object, I can use the method here, or this is an instance of the request class, okay? So I can use the method get, and in here, I'm going to pass my URL, and that is it, guys. This line of code that I have written is literally going to make a request to the Fiverr server the same way our browser actually did make a request to the server, okay? The same way this browser made a request to the server. Is it not simple, guys? Hi, Priscilla.
Hi, cool. Yeah.
Is it not simple enough?
Yes,
So
it is.
by knowing that I need a URL, just as I would have in my browser, okay, like this, okay, I can make a request using Python to the Fiverr server. So let's give it a shot, okay? Now I am going to take out this code here, bring this back up. In our Python script or Python code, we don't have access to the inspector, okay? So we need to examine it on a different level. So down here, I am going to clear the console, okay? And I'm going to type Python. In your case, you can just click on the run, okay? Network._get.py. If I press enter here, you see there was a wait. There was a moment where the script actually took some time to wait. And it came back with no response. Why? Hi, Prudence. Hi, Prudence. Okay. So why is it that I am saying that we have been able to make a successful request to the Fiverr server, but we did not get any response? That is because this request would return the response that we spoke about. So let's put that response in a variable called response, okay? And now let's print our response, okay? Now let's run the script again. Give it a second. And now we see we are getting 403. Response 403. So the question now is, what is 403?
Error.
Why? Okay. Someone said error. Okay. So can it say, why is the imported request highlighted? Which one? Here, do you mean this one? Hi, Kenneth.
Yes, cool. That's the place. It
Okay.
seems there is an error with it or what?
No, so it's not an error. Okay, it's just my linter, my Python linter yelling at me here. Okay, because you know when I use this, it's actually going to import everything. So it's not the best way. Okay, or sometimes it tells you that it could not resolve from the source. Okay, but it's just the linter that is yelling at me, but it's fine. Okay.
Okay.
Good. So someone said the 403 means an error. Victor says gateway. Adrian says you don't have the right permission to see it. So then let's explore what is this 403 in the first place. So let's bring back our notes. The 403, among other codes, is what you call the HTTP status codes, okay? Now, as a way for the server to communicate with you, sometimes we designate some of the responses in the form of numbers. And in the case of the HTTP protocol, we use what is called the status codes. Now, these status codes are categorized with 200, 400, 500, okay? These are the categorizations. Now, the 200 is 200x, 40x, and 50x. Each code has its own meaning. You don't have to memorize everything, okay? So I'm going to show you in simple terms how you can find them. So I'll go to Google, I'm going to type HTTP status codes, okay, like this. If I type that, you get a couple of responses. You can even choose to use Wikipedia, okay? So let's use Wikipedia. In as much as not the best place to go, okay? Now, oh, I missed one, okay? Okay, so there's 100, there's 200, there's 300, there's 400, there's 500. These are HTTP status codes that it is likely for you to receive as a response or status code of the request you made. So what does it mean to have a 100 status code, a 200 status code, a 300 status code, 400 or 500? 100 means an informational response, That is, the request was received and it's continuing to process. If you receive a 200 status code, it means the request was successfully received, understood, and accepted. If you receive a 300 request code, it means redirection, which means further action needs to be taken in order to complete the request. 400 means client error. The request contains a bad syntax or cannot be fulfilled. Then 500 means server error. The server failed to fulfill the apparent valid request. Now, these XXXS here, you see here, have their representations here. So if you take your time to go through it, you will actually see what each and every one does. Any questions or confusions up until this point? Any questions or confusions up until this point, guys? Okay, great. So I am going to actually bring this one back up here. Okay, so that is what we have here. But let's actually examine what is in this response. Okay, so for this response, apart from you getting this actual object as a feedback, we can actually get the status code, okay, like this. So if I rerun the script, it would give me just my status code, okay? So you see 403 here. I can also get the headers. So I can do dot headers. No, let's do this. Let's get this out. Let's do print response dot headers like this. I can actually see the headers associated with this request. So you can see that here. You see how this closely resembles what I showed you earlier on. First of all, you have the date here, which is actually a JSON, okay? You have a date here as the key, and then the actual date as the value. You have the content type, which is text HTML, with the encoding being character set UTF-8. You have all these things, including the server being Cloudflare, okay, and so on. Okay, what if we want to see the actual content or the content of the response that came? Okay, we can do print response.test like this, okay? So now we're going to clear our console, run our scripts, give it a second, and you see we get an HTML code in here. Does this make sense, guys? Hi, Adrian.
Very good.
Does it make sense up to this point?
Yes, it makes sense.
Great. Hi, Eric. So Priscilla, you're getting module not found because you probably have not installed request. Have you installed request, Priscilla?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so instead of you use the run button to run, right?
Yes.
Okay, so just go onto your terminal. Are you on your terminal?
Yes.
Okay, you should see this part of your screen. You see it?
Yes.
Click on the plus. It will spin up a new terminal for you. Do you have that?
Yes.
Confirm if the name here is the same as the folder that you are working in.
Python network. Yes, please.
Is the same. So now
Yes.
just type Python followed by the name of the file that you created. Okay. Network and as for get.py. Then press enter.
Just with a dot and slash or just network underscore?
So you can just type the network like this. Sorry. Python network, and then you just press the tab key on your keyboard. The tab key.
Ah, okay.
Did it
Oh,
complete?
Yes.
Did you get a response?
Yes. It's
good.
If
you did,
yes, I got it.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So great. So we have this, right? So let's actually examine. So we have this here. So what if maybe we want to actually play around with the feedback that we get? And I think we should do that just to conserve time with, not you, with, wait, not this guy here. Oh, yeah, our test translator here, okay? So if you want to follow along with this, the first thing you need to do is you need to go to this website, okay? You need to go to this website, which I'm going to post here. Okay. Now, on this website, just choose any API that you want to play around with. For mine, I use the text translator, okay? You select whichever one that you want. Let's say La Liga live scores, okay? It will bring you to this page here, which will actually ask you to actually subscribe to test, okay? While subscribing, it will actually allow you to log in, and then you can subscribe to test. So if you click on subscribe to test, it will give you some pricing. Don't worry, you don't have to pay. You can use the basic, which is free, okay? So you just select subscribe to this, and then it will just give you access to that API. It will look something like this, okay? So once you have access to it, it's going to give you your API key and then your host, okay? So that is what we're going to do. We're going to utilize this here. So I'm actually going to bring up all these things because it's part of my headers. So I'm going to add that to my requests. Headers. Request headers, okay? And this is going to be like this, okay? This is actually a JSON, so I'm going to wrap this in curly braces, okay, like this, okay? But this will be like a Python dictionary. Okay, so now that we have these things, let's go back to our editor. Where's our VS Code? Okay, here. Now, in here, we are going to set up a couple of things. So I'm going to comment this one out. I'll comment this one out here as well. So the first thing I'm going to set up here will be my URL, because I want to make a request, a GET request, right? Here. Now, just a moment. This GET request here, this is an API that someone has designed, okay? So if I click on test endpoint, I should get a response that looks something like this, okay? So I'll get a JSON response back, which I'm going to show you in a second, that contains these values, the data, the languages, and so on. So let's actually test that, okay, in our code. So in here, I'm going to put our URL here, which I'm going to grab from here. Okay, if you're using the same thing as I am, you would have the same URL. Okay, then I'm going to have my requests headers like this, okay, like this. So my request headers is going to be a Python dictionary. So I'm going to actually add these contents to my request headers, okay, like this. Or better still, maybe I just format it, close this one here, close you here as well, okay? So these are my request headers, right? This is the only two things that I need to make my request. Why am I saying that? Because literally you can see everything in here, okay? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call my request that I actually imported in my Python script. Then I know the method is a get method. How do I know that? Because I can see that, sorry, in the API documentation that the method is get, okay? Now, get, and then I'm going to pass my URL. Then I'm also going to pass my headers, okay, as request headers like this. Okay, that is it. You remember our named keyword arguments? That is what I'm using here. I can actually do URL here as well. Okay, so this would actually make a request to the text translator API. Now, this is going to return a response, so I need to grab that into my response here. And first thing that I want to do here is I want to just print the response dot status code, okay, to see the status of my response. So let's make this bigger. Let's open our terminal and let's run the script. If I run this script, you see I get 200. What is 200 and what does it mean? I've forgotten. So I'm going to go back. I think someone was saying something.
Successful.
Yeah, so Fred says it means successful. But let's say I still have forgotten about it, right? So let's go here and then let's go and check. Okay. So I go to Google, I go to HTTP status codes, right? This is for everyone else who doesn't understand or know how to identify it. I'm showing you how you can actually see it. So you come down here, scroll down, and you see that 200 means okay. What it told us here was that it means it's successful. That means our request was actually successful, right? But if I come down here and I see 200 exactly, because it could have been 201, it could have been 202, it could have been 203. 200 exactly means okay. So it tells me that my standard response for successful HTTP request. Okay, so now let's go back to our code. If our response is successful, then let's check out the headers. Okay, so we're going to print, say the response dot headers, and let's examine the headers a bit. Okay, let's see how different these headers are from the first header that we examined. If I print this, we can see the headers in here. First thing I see is the dates. I count down here and I see, I'm looking for server. I see server here. Do you see the first server was Cloudflare, but this is what? Rapid API server. It even tells me there's a Rapid API region, which is AWS EU West 1. That means this server, this request is actually coming from an AWS server. Okay. Okay, there are a couple of things. The content type here is no longer HTML. Okay, you can see this is the content type is an application JSON. So I need to actually handle this as a JSON response. Okay, there are a couple of things here that you can also examine. I'm not going to talk about them yet. Okay, so now that I know that it's a JSON response that I'm receiving, then now let's look at the response. Okay, so I'm going to print response.test here. Okay, come back here, clear the console, and then rerun the script. So this time, this is the response that I'm getting, guys. You see, I have been able to successfully make a GET request to the HTTP server, and this is the response that I'm getting here. It's giving me an array of languages that is actually embedded in a dictionary of data. Okay, so let's play around with it a bit. Okay, maybe I want to get all the languages. Okay, so how then do I go about it? Priscilla, do you remember what I said? Hi, Priscilla. Is she still here?
Hi, I'm here.
Yeah. So Priscilla, you remember I said based on the type of response that you get, it will determine how you're going to process it, right?
Yeah.
Assuming this response that we had gotten here, Priscilla, from our headers, right?
Yes.
Running our script again. If we look at the content type and it was an HTML, we would have to render it using a browser, right?
Yes, yes.
But now we know this is a JSON, so we need to handle it or process it as though it was a JSON format, okay?
Yeah.
So what then do I need to do? I need to process it as though it was a JSON. Now I have already seen the structure, okay? So what I'm going to do is this. The first thing I'm going to do is I am actually going to take the response data, okay? And I'm going to use the response object, and then I'm going to use JSON method on that. This JSON method exists in request, okay? Once the request that you made returns a response, and that response contains a JSON, okay, you can actually use this method to convert it from a JSON to a Python dictionary.
Oh.
Okay, so now let me show that. Let me show you that. So now let's say we have test, and we do response.test here. Okay, now we're going to say print, and we're going to say type of test. Okay, to see what type of data is stored in here if we use the test. And then what type of data is stored here if we use the JSON method. Okay, so print response data. Oh, sorry. We need a type. So I'm going to say type, not type error. Type of response data. If I execute this script now, right, I see that the first one is a string and then the second one is a dictionary. Priscilla, does it make sense?
Yeah.
So now I know how to play with dictionaries, right? So I'm not going to take this into consideration. I'm going to play with the dictionary. I already see I've already seen the structure of the dictionary, right? So I'm going to say, I want the languages that have been stored in this dictionary, right? What? Okay, yeah. Yeah, all right. But in this dictionary, the dictionary is actually stored in the variable response data. It contains a key that is called data, right? And then this data also, okay, so it contains a key that is called data. Okay, so now if I actually return languages here, run my script again, I should get this data. Do you see that? But what is this data? I'm going to copy this data here, okay? And I'm going to show you a beautiful tool that you can use online called a JSON formatter, okay? JSON formatter. If this JSON formatter opens, I'm going to paste that response that I received from my code in there, click on process, and it's going to actually prettify that response for me. So you can see this is what I'm getting. So I am actually getting an object with a key called languages, and this languages has a value of an array. Okay, so now I want to get the languages. Okay, so from my Python script here, okay, I can actually add this here and say I want the languages. Okay, so now let's execute our script again. Let's clear our console, execute our script again, give it a second, and now this is the response that we have. So I am going to copy all these things. Okay. And why is it not giving me? Oh, okay, we're already at the bottom. Go to my JSON formatter. Okay. Oh, not you. Where's this guy? All right. And I'm going to repaste this here again. Okay. And then process it. Now, what I can see here is just an array. You see that? Oh, sorry, that's an array, a list. Okay. A Python list. So now I know how to play with Python list, right? So in here, I'm going to comment out this, and I'm going to loop through my Python list, okay? And my Python list is made up of dictionaries. Each dictionary contains two keys, code and name, right? So what I'm going to do is, I am actually going to loop through for language in languages, okay? I am going to print the language, okay? Like this. So language dot name, okay? Now, if I run the script, and that is if it's going to type properly here, okay, clear, okay? If I run the script again, now I'm going to get this response here. It says what? Language dot name is not an attribute. Okay, so what is going on? Right? Let's try and print language as an independent entity here. Okay, and see what comes out. Do you see that? Language is literally giving us some objects, right? So if I should check what type is this language here, run my script again. Actually, let me put this bigger. Okay, clear the screen, run the script again. It's actually telling me that it's a dictionary. Okay, so I am actually going to treat it as a dictionary. So I'm going to say language, use the array notation, and say name like this. So this time I'm going to run the script again. And now what you see is I get all the languages, okay? I get all the languages. What if I want only languages with, let's say that contains P in them, right? So we can say if language, check the name, if the character P is in language, okay, here, oh, what is going on here? Then print that particular language, okay? So we want only languages that has P in them. So I can run this script again, and now you can see I get Pashto, I get Persian, I get Polish, I get Portuguese, I get Punjabi. You see that? This is me actually processing the response that I received from the text translator, how do you call it, server. Any questions or confusions here? All right, guys. So if there's no questions or confusions here, then the last part of it is going to be the post request, which is going to be quite straightforward. Then I can bring the session to a close. Okay. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to create another file here, and I'm going to call this network _post.py. Okay. I already have a couple of things here, so I'm going to drag these ones and bring it into my code. I'm going to import requests, and then I'm going to paste this here. Okay. Now I need to prepare the request payload. Okay. Now, what is the request payload? It's going to be a dictionary. But how do I know the request payload? From the API documentation, I can see there's a post method here, and it tells me that I can actually send the source language, the target language, and then the text that I want translated. Okay, so I'm going to copy source language, come here and say, I want you to convert, from English, okay, then to my target language, copy the targets, put this on here, say, translate this to Spanish, right? Or let's say Hindu, okay, like this. And then what is the text that we want translated, right? So let's come here, let's copy the text here. And instead of what is your name, I'm going to type ALX is awesome, okay, like this. And let's see what this translation would be in Hindu, right? Or Hindi. Okay. So I have actually prepared everything that I need. From this documentation that we examined, I've seen that I need a request URL, the method, and then the payload. Okay. And then there are some headers. So I have the URL, I have the headers, I have the payload. So now we can use request.post. Okay, that's the method. We're going to pass the URL, which will be the URL. Then now we're going to pass the headers, which will be our request headers, like this. Okay. Then we're going to pass our data, which will be our payload, request payload, like this. Now, if everything goes nice and good, we should get a response. So we want to keep that response in here. And then we want to check the status code once we run the script. So we say response.status code. Okay. We're going to open our terminal, clear our screen, and then run the scripts. Here, this will be post, run the scripts. Give it a second, it tells us 404 not found. So what does it mean 404 not found? So let's go back here. We know that means it wasn't found, right? And that's all for me. So you can actually Google that and then find it. So I'm going to copy this URL from here, and I'm going to bring that URL in here. Okay. Let's see. Let's make sure we have everything correct. Oh, right. And I also need to add this one here. So let's just replace everything here. Here with that. Okay. Something. Oh, I missed you. So let's copy this. Let's bring you to this guy. Okay. So now let's try running our request again. Let's see. Now we have 200. Now we've got 404 not found because of what? We did not specify the entire request headers that the server needed. Without you putting in the right headers, the server will tell you that I don't know what request you are making. Okay, so now we have that here. Okay, so we can also examine. We can examine the status, the headers, response.headers here. Okay, run our script here. And we see the content type is JSON. Okay, so now that it's JSON, we know we can actually view what it is. Okay, so let's print response.test. Okay, let's clear our console, run the script one more time, and now we see this is the response that we have. Okay, so we know it's a JSON, so let's handle this properly. We're going to say our translated test will be our response.json, this, okay? And then instead of doing this, let's say translated response, okay? And now let's do translated test to be translated response, okay? We're going to grab the data, and then we're going to grab the translated test here, okay? Like this. Now we are just going to output print our translated test, okay? Let's run our script one more time. And then now we see this is the ALS is awesome in Hindi, right? We can even make this a bit more responsive by passing the test dynamically into the application. Let's say I love to program with Python, okay, like this. Let's run our script again, and let's see the translated test, okay? So you see, this is I love to program with Python in Hindi, okay? Any questions or confusion up until this point? Hi, Priscilla.
Hi, cool.
Yes. It looks like no one wants to tell me that they have a challenge, so I'm going to talk to you. So maybe your challenge would be someone else's challenge. So it's not like I'm picking on you, okay?
No, it's fine. I like it.
All right. So do you understand? We can
Yeah.
actually translate this to any other language, okay, that we want. Okay.
Question.
Okay.
What was the difference between this one and the first one? The languages you posted and okay, I get it. Right.
So you see this one required the payload. Hi, Victor. So you see this one here required the payload. So with this payload, the server is able to do some processing. That is to say, it would convert this test to the language that we want, and then give that to us as what? An output. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Good. All right, guys. Any other question? Someone says try to translate to French. Okay, so if we want to translate to French, let's go here. And then we want to say if we have French F in our name, we want to print the name, and then also, actually, let's print the name and then the code, okay? So let's do this with code, that's, okay, let's do dot format, pass the name here, and now we're going to pass the code here, okay? So we can actually find the code for French, okay? I'm going to run the script here. Come again?
Use comma format, or is it the same?
Oh, no, it's dot. Sorry. Thank you very much. Dot format. Okay. So enter. So we have French here, which is FR. So with this code, we go into our post. We're going to change our target language to FR. Okay. Now we're going to run this script. Let's clear our console. Then we're going to run the script again. And let's see, I love to program with Python in French. So j'adore programmer avec Python. And that is my beautiful French. Do you see that, Kenneth? All right. So you can literally use this API to do so many things. You can write an application around this. Okay. Let's say you are a sports fan. Okay. With the resource that I've given to you, you can literally use the same approach to get some data on sports. Okay. If let's say, yes, so, so I'm going to subscribe to this. I'm not going to enter my card details, guys. Set it 0, guy. What? Okay. So maybe you should pick something else. Okay. Pick something else that doesn't require you to put in your card. Okay. But literally, you can just pick anything, and then you won't be able to get the API for it. Okay. So let's say if you want movies, if you want Crunchbase, if you want recipe for food nutrition, if you're interested in realty, okay, you can see all those ones here. You can actually use them and see how they apply. Okay, it's a good exercise and it's a good thing to do to actually improve upon your coding. Okay. All right. Any confusion that needs clarification? If not, I will just have to pull up my slide again. Where's my slide? Come here, pull up my slide. Okay. So for the exception handling and unit testing, it's going to require so much time. So we're going to move that to our next session. But I also needed you to actually appreciate what the HTTP transfer. So HTTP is, what the hypertext transfer protocol is, and how we can actually use Python to actually make requests from our applications. Thank you so much for joining. Announcements. The week is still not over, so PLD happens tomorrow, which is Wednesday, 20th December. Be sure to complete the project that has been released this week. If you have any challenges, please don't hesitate to reach out to us on Discord. Book sessions with us. We are more than happy to assist you. And also note that this is the good news. No project will be released this coming Friday, guys. No project will be released this coming Friday. So we are going to give you a break. I think you guys already saw the announcement on Discord announcement channel, but there will be no project released this Friday, which means that you have the opportunity to actually go over the past project that we've worked on, bring yourself up to speed, do a bit more practice, and actually appreciate what Python is, what HTML and CSS are, okay? And your next project will be released sometime in January, I think January 5th, 2024, okay? So you have all this time to rest or catch up on your project. And also note that mentors will be out of office from 22nd December to 8th January. So if you have any challenges, please don't worry, wait for us. We will come back and then assist you. If it's very urgent, please send me a message on LinkedIn and I'll be more than happy to assist you. Thank you guys and have a happy holiday.
Cole, so before you go, can you share this text translator API with us?
Oh, I already did. I already did. Hold on.
I'd appreciate it.
Hold on. So I have this one here. So I'm going to share this on the chat. So I'm sharing that on the chat, guys. You can actually pick it from the chat, okay? Or just go to rapidapi.com. You will be able to log in. Okay. Thank you so much, guys, and bye for now.
God bless you, Cole.
Amen.